faced with heavy aerial bombardment backed by relentless cruise missile attacks from the sea. Libyan strongman Moammar Gadhafi has threatened to retaliate with a people's war, which would engulf countries across the Mediterranean. Shortly after Sunday's early morning bombardment on regime targets, in which several European countries and the United States participated, Colonel Gadhafi vowed, in an audio message, to take the fight into Europe. "The Mediterranean region has become a real battlefield," he said. "Arms depots have been opened, and all the Libyan people are being armed," Colonel Gadhafi asserted, signaling his readiness to launch an armed guerrilla rebellion against the Western forces. Later, evoking the medieval imagery of the Crusades, Colonel Gadhafi threatened to begin an endless war against the Christian enemy, which included, among others, France, the United States, and Britain. "There is no justification for this Cold War against Islam," he said. Colonel Gadhafi's assertion over the airwaves followed massive attacks which began late on Saturday by fighter jets, bombers, warships, and submarines, which had been rushed into the Mediterranean ahead of the attacks. With government forces closing in on Benghazi, the opposition's nerve center, French aircraft on Saturday had taken off for attacks, even before a meeting being held in Paris on possible military steps to enforce a UN-sanctioned no-fly zone over Libya had concluded. The United States unleashed a cruise missile barrage from 3 submarines that were part of a task force in the Mediterranean, which also included 2 warships. 14 other ships, 11 from Italy and 1 each from Britain, Canada, and France, are part of an armada that has been positioned to enforce the UN Security Council resolution, which has authorized the use of air power to prevent attacks on civilians by Colonel Gadhafi's forces. On Sunday morning, the regime's tanks outside Benghazi had been attacked from the air, and the assault on the city by pro-Gadhafi loyalists, which began on Friday, had been stalled. Libyan authorities claimed that 48 civilians had been killed and 150 wounded during the overnight strikes. Ahead of the aerial bombardment, at least 94 people had been killed during the regime attack on Benghazi, doctors at the city's Jala hospital said. Human Rights Watch says that since the Libyan uprising began, it had documented cases of government forces shooting peaceful protesters, making arbitrary arrests, and undertaking enforced disappearances. Iran's caution. While supporting the opposition's cause, Iranian regime on Sunday cautioned Libyans to be wary of the real purpose of the Western military intervention. These Western countries enter usually with seductive slogans of supporting the people, but they follow their own interests in ruling the countries and continuing colonialism in a new form, said Ramin Maimon Peyrost, a foreign ministry spokesman. However, Turkey, whose stature in West Asia has recently grown, said it was ready to support the enforcement of the UN resolution. With criticism mounting that Arab countries had chosen to be sidelined by the Western powers, Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Hamad bin Jassim Al Thani told Al Jazeera that his country would certainly participate in military action over Libya. The aerial attacks, meant to degrade the regime's capacity to counterattack the overflying planes with ground-based missiles and fighter jets, targeted 20 air defense sites, including radar stations and communications centers in Tripoli and Misrata, Libya's opposition-held third-largest city. By midday on Sunday, the U.S. announced that dominance over Libyan skies had been fully achieved,